going to start. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Committee of Adjustment hearing for the Scarborough District. Today is August 25th, 2021. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, which is an online digital platform, and streamed onto the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, which is an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by the computer, a telephone, or a tablet app. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you're called on to speak. Before we begin, we do the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that applies to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever property to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and an email address because Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the TLAB or in limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal, which is the OLT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or the applicant will proceed with the presentation if required. The committee may ask questions or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or the agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or the agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee of the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if it's substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and all those who are entitled to the notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or in opposition to the application will be invited to speak. I highly recommend to keep confine your remarks to the application that's before you. Repeating the same comments will not advance your cause. We're certainly here to hear your comments and concern, but do not repeat your comments. If you're in a large group, I may recommend choosing a spokesperson for the group. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant and the agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion, and the application will be taken into committee for a decision. Please note again that for this session, which was scheduled to begin at 4 p.m., so we are in our 4 p.m. time slot or session, we are dealing with the balance of the items on the agenda, which include items 37 to 53. Sorry, to 53. 37 to 53. Are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff for items in the time slot? Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, I would like to declare a conflict of interest on item number 52 for 6 Mcgavin Road, and the applicant is an acquaintance of mine. For that item, I would request Member M to please step up and both during the vetting or if the matter is held, chair that item.
Through the chair, excuse me. One on item 52, and this is to member M as well. There is also one speaker that will be speaking on this application, a neighbor that will be speaking on it.
On item 52?
Correct.
Okay. Right.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's, so that was my declaration of conflict of interest. Are there any deferral requests for these items? These are items 37 to 53.
Through the chair, there are none.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now we begin with the vetting of the agenda. So the first item, item 37, 278 Old Kingston Road. I see that there's the agent, architect, owner, and the owner's son who are listed as speakers. I don't see any neighbors, so we can certainly begin with this item. So can we have Jerry, please? Jerry, are you the agent?
Hi, and architecture is the agent. I am representing Suntex.
Okay, so who will be the spokesperson for your application, yourself or the architect?
The architect.
Architect, okay, so we now go to Nitin Malhotra. He is the architect. Nitin?
Yes, Madam Chairperson.
Okay, so will you be the speaker for representing the agent
Yes,
and the
I would
owner?
be.
Okay.
I would be the speaker. Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. That's
Perfect.
correct.
Thank you very much. So we have your application before us, and I am going to ask the committee members if they have any questions on this application at this time. There are 5 variances that are before us, and I believe there's a staff report from community planning recommending 2 conditions. So Nitin, are you aware of that report and the recommended condition?
Yes, I'm aware of that, Madam Chair.
And do you have any concerns with those 2 recommended conditions?
No, we don't have any concerns. We agree with the staff comments. I believe it's to do with landscaping improvements and financial security. So yeah, we agree with both of them.
Correct. So the first one is that the owner shall build and complete landscaping substantially in accordance with the drawing numbers that are provided. And then the second one is that prior to the issuance of any building permit, that the owner submit financial securities in the form of an LC or certified check to guarantee completion of landscaping. So you're familiar with those 2 conditions and you do not have any concerns with those?
That's correct.
Okay. Members of the committee, any questions for Nitin at this time? All right. If there are no questions or concerns, can I please have a motion on this application? Member M, please go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, I recommend approval of item number 37, subject to the condition to tie the approval to the landscape plan, as well as to secure a letter of credit for these landscaping items.
Okay, so basically the 2 recommended conditions in community planning staff reports dated August 4th.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Member M. May I have a seconder to this motion, please? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I will second that motion for approval.
All in favor of this motion? And the motion is carried. The application for 278 Old Kingston Road has been approved, subject to conditions. Thank you. We now move to the next item, item 38, and this is 183 Phyllis Avenue. And I do note that we have speakers listed, so we are going to hold down this item and come back to it in the main body. Next item on the list is item 39, and this is 16 Ware Crescent. And I have 2 people listed as applicant and the agent. Can I have the first one listed, Jimison Padiyat Suresh Babu? Okay, so is the Jimison Padiyat Suresh Babu? Is it Faisal or is it Jimison?
I'm speaking on behalf of Faisal.
And who is this, please? Who's speaking? Hello? Okay, can we go to the next one, Faisal?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. So sorry for that. This is Jimison. I'm speaking on behalf of Faisal and on behalf of Same Designers and Engineers.
Okay, all right. So we have Jimison who's speaking on behalf of the owner. So she's the applicant and the agent listed on my speakers list. So Jimison, we have your application before us. Members of the committee, any questions for Jimison at this time? Okay, I do note for record that we have received a letter of objection and petition, as well as a community association letter and presentation that we have received and reviewed. Yeah, so this was just for record. Committee members, if there are no questions or comments, can I please have a motion? And before I do that, Jemison, you're aware of the conditions of urban forestry, and do you have any concerns with those?
No, we don't have any concerns.
Okay, all right. Members of the committee. Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the motion for approval of item number 39, subject to the urban forestry condition number 2.
So my apologies, I think I looked at the wrong one. There is no petition there. It was for the previous item. My apologies. There was no letter of objection. My
There is
apologies.
2 letters of objection, Madam Chair, but no petition.
Oh, there
Yeah.
are letters of objection? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't see it in maybe it's in the supply agenda. Okay. Fair enough. So item 39, 16 Weir Crescent, just confirming that on record, we have 2 letters of objection. Okay, members of the committee. If there's no further remark, can I have a motion? Go ahead, Member M.
Member Said had already put forth a motion, and I was just going to second it.
Sorry. Please, go ahead, second the
It's been a
motion.
long day, I understand.
No, the problem is that I'm having some technical glitch with my agenda, so that's why I can't keep track. Go ahead, Member M.
So for record, I second the motion put forth by Member Said.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? And the motion is carried. The application for 16 Weir Crescent has been approved. Thank you. Go to the next item. This is item number 40. And item number 40 is 16 Kilpatrick Drive. And we have Leo Mestandria with us.
Yes, hello?
Hi, Leo. Okay. So Leo, we have your application before us. Are you aware of the conditions of urban forestry?
Yes.
And do you have any concerns?
No.
Okay. All right. Members of the committee, any questions for Leo? Okay, I see none. If there are no questions, can I please have a motion? There are conditions of urban forestry. Oh, Dawn, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I find the variances requested meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval subject to urban forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Said?
I second the motion for approval, subject to the urban forestry conditions.
Okay, and we are at Kilpatrick Drive. Okay. All right. All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the application is approved.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 41, 2340 and 2450 Morningside Avenue. Do we have Mike Duff with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, Mike, so we have your application before us. We have received a staff report from community planning, and I believe there is, there's no condition here. Okay,
No,
Through the
it's
chair,
subject to
it's an,
site plan approval.
it's an information report.
correct, correct. It's an information report. It's going through a site plan control application, so,
Yep.
so that's what it describes. Okay. Members of the committee, any questions for Mike Duff? I see none. Okay. If there are no further comments, can I please have a motion on this application? 2340 and 2450 Morningside Avenue. Yes, Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I recommend approval of this application. I don't believe there's any conditions. The parking study has already been received and reviewed.
Okay. Have a seconder, please. Member M, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too second that motion.
Right, all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried. The application for 2340, 2450 Morningside has been approved.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is item 42, and item 42 is 26 Ivan Road. And do we have Yasu with us?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Yasu. Yasu, are you aware of the conditions of urban forestry, and do you have any concerns with those conditions?
Yes, I'm a member of it, and I have no concerns on that.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, any questions for Yasu? I see none. Okay. If there are no questions, can I please have a motion? This is 26 Ivan Road. Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the motion for approval of item number 42, and there are urban forestry condition number 2 and 3.
Thank you. We have a seconder. Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Second the motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? And the motion is carried. Your application's been approved subject to conditions of urban forestry. Thank you. Go to the next item, item number 43. Item 43 is for 8 Riviera Drive. And we have Drew and Joanne Taylor as the owner. Are Drew and Joanne with us?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. All right, Drew and Joanne. So we have your application before us, and I don't see any conditions. Sorry? Okay. So members of the committee, do we have any questions for Drew and Joanne Taylor at this time? I see none. Okay. If there are no comments or questions, can I please have a motion on this application? 8 Riviera Drive. Member M, please go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, I put forth a motion of approval for item number 43. There are no conditions attached to that approval.
Okay, thank you. We have a seconder, please. Member Macaulay.
I second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? And the motion is carried. Application for 8 Riviera Drive has been approved, and there are no conditions. Thank you. Okay, the next item is item number 44. Item 44 is for 31 Ivan Road. And we have the owner and representative designer and the applicant listed. I will check with the owner in terms of who the spokesperson will be. So can we have Bala Kumaran?
Through the chair, the owner has not joined us today.
Okay, do we have Shervin Farzam, who's a representative designer? Okay. Shervin, are you with us?
Sorry, what? Hello.
Are you going to be speaking today on behalf of the owner, or would it be the applicant?
Yes, correct. Correct.
Okay.
I'm gonna represent the owner.
Okay, you're gonna represent the owner. Perfect. Okay. So, Shervin, we have your report before us. Are you aware that urban forestry has recommended a condition. Are you aware of that condition?
Yes, we are okay with that condition.
Okay, you're okay with that condition. Okay. Members of the committee, any questions for Shirvan for Zam? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Sherman, there is a letter from the adjacent owner requesting that the house be brought back in line with house number 29. Have you discussed that with the adjacent landowner?
I didn't got the time to talk to the adjacent landowner, but we have a zoning bylaw that we have to carry that minimum setback and and the maximum setback. So we are on the range of that setback for our project.
All right, I saw that. As I said, the adjacent landowner, I believe number 29, was saying he wanted the house set back in line with the other houses on the street. So my question was, had you discussed any of this with him? I note we don't have any comment from him other than the letter he submitted. So as far as you
Actually,
know, no one's talked to him.
I didn't got the time to talk to the neighbor, agent neighbor, and I didn't know that he or she wants such a request. But I mentioned before, this one is not an item event for the committee. That is not an item for the making the minor variances. We are in the position of the our location of the project is in the satisfy the building bylaw.
Okay. All right. I think the message that I'm getting here is that based on what I'm hearing, is that they're complying with the setback, the front yard setback requirements. Making that commitment on the floor, I'm not sure it could trigger other zoning regulation issues, so I don't want to go that route. Because as you saw, Brian put a line on the plan to show how far the building would have to be pushed back. So I'm really not comfortable in making or suggesting any change that could result in potential other variances. So I'm going to leave it at that, or perhaps even other issues. I'm not sure, maybe trees or something. I'm not sure. So I would say we leave it at that, and it would be up to the applicant to discuss it with his neighbor should he want to move the building back. And if he meets the regulations, other additional zoning regulations, then good for them. If not, then they'll have to comply with the regulations. Okay? But thank you for bringing it to our attention. If there are no further comments, can I please have a motion on this application? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The variances before the committee, three variances pertaining to the floor area and height. I think I'm confident these are minor, meet the four test. I am willing to put the motion for approval of item number 44, and there is one condition, condition number 1 from the urban forestry.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, please. Member M, please go ahead.
I second that motion, Madam Chair.
All right, all in favor of this application, motion? Motion's carried, the application's approved for 31 Ivan Road. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item number 45, 1478 to 1496 Kingston Road. We have the application, but we have a speaker who's registered to speak in opposition, so we will hold on this item. So item number 45, which is for 1478 to 1496 Kingston Road, is being held. Item number 46. This
Through you,
is,
Madam Chair.
yes, I know.
I believe we discussed
I know.
combining item number 46 and 47.
I'm coming there. Okay.
Sorry.
Give me a breath. Give me a
Sorry.
moment to breath. Okay, so item 46 and 47 pertain to the same application. The item 46 is for a minor variance application, and item 47 is also for the minor variance application, but for one is for part 1 and the other is part 2. So let's deal with both the items together. However, if we are making decision, then we just have to be mindful that we separate the decisions for clarity. So can we have Stepan Sukiasian, please?
Yes, hello.
Hi. I hope I'm
Hi,
pronounced.
it's John Carlos Silfides, the agent for the owner, and I have Stepan as well here.
Okay, so it's John Carlos?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So you will be the speaker today. Okay. So we have your application before us. We're looking at the application. Members of the committee, any questions for John Carlos at this time? I don't see any conditions here or anything. Yeah, there are no conditions. So members of the committee, if there are no conditions, can we deal with both items number 46 and 47 together? But make sure the decisions are separated. So who wants to go? Member M.
Through you, Madam Chair, I put forth a motion of approval for item number 46, which is, let me read out the number, A0254/21SC. And there are no conditions.
Okay.
And that would be associated with part 1. And I will follow that up with another motion for item number 47 for application number A0253/21SC for part 2.
Okay, perfect. Can I have a seconder, please? Mr. Don, please go ahead.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
All right, all in favor of this motion? All in favor, thank you. The motion's carried, this application's been approved. Can we now deal with the second part 2 of this application? Or we already did?
Oh, I did both.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I separated them out.
Sorry, okay. So both applications have been approved. Sorry, it's just taking me a while to get through my agenda. My apologies. I just want to make sure I'm capturing everything. So both applications 46 and 47 have been approved, and there are no conditions.
Yes,
Thank you.
I read out both application numbers.
Yes, you
as
did.
well.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So 46 and 47 have been dealt with. We now move to item 48. Item 48 is 89 to 90 Dynamic Drive. And I believe there are two applications, 48A and 48B and 48C. Correct? There are three applications and three items. So,
Three parts, yeah.
3 parts, correct. So can we have the agent, Natasha?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of committee. My name's Natasha Petzold. I'm the agent speaking on behalf of the owner today. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Natasha. So, Natasha, are you aware of a community planning staff report that is recommending a condition that should the committee approve it, that a condition be be tied with the plans and provide a financial security? Is that what it is? Okay.
Correct.
And you're aware and you don't have any concerns with that?
That's correct. We acknowledge the community planning conditions and we don't have any concerns with them.
And you also acknowledge engineering services comments and conditions regarding site servicing and draft R plan?
That's correct. Yes, we don't have any concerns with those as well.
Okay, and there are no conditions from urban forestry on this one. Okay, so members of the committee, any questions? Since we're dealing with the three items together, any questions on any of the application? I see none. Okay, so now Can I have a motion on this application? Sorry? Yeah, we could do one. So we could do one because it's the same address. So who wants to go for the motion? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yeah, with respect to application 48A for consent, I find the proposed land severance to be quite in keeping with the neighborhood and the intended use for the property. So I move approval subject to the engineering and construction services conditions and the standard conditions of consent. With respect to minor variance applications 48B and C,
Yeah.
I find them to be in keeping with the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval subject to the conditions requested by the Community Planning Department.
You want to say something, Colin?
Through the chair, you may, I guess the members may wish to tie the consent to both of those conditions. The community planning conditions and the urban forestry, the consent application.
Okay, all right. So basically, all 3 applications be tied to the same condition from urban forestry. Sorry, from community planning.
Well, what it normally, because there's a parent consent application, it's probably best to tie it to the consent. That would be my suggestion.
Okay.
Instead of the minor variance. It's a duplication if you're doing it for both, right?
Oh, I see. Okay, what you mean. So as you heard from staff, if you can tie those conditions to the parent application, which is the consent application, that would kind of that would take care of our decision.
I'm happy with that, Madam Chair.
Okay, all right. Do you want an amended motion, or are you good with that?
No, we understand. I believe staff we can make it work in terms of the decision.
All right, so can I have a seconder, please? Member Saeed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion subject to the conditions.
Okay, all in favor of this motion? And the motion is carried. The applications for 88 to 90 Dynamic Drive have been approved subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, so now we go to the next item, item 49, 158 Mans Road. And I believe there's a person listed, the third speaker. Is that a resident or?
Ali, are you able to confirm if that person is registered?
Bogdan.
Okay, they're okay.
So, hello, Bogdan.
Madam Chair, thank you. I am here. Thank you. I'm ready to speak to it. I suspect after the applicant speaks to it.
Okay, so you are a neighbor who has concerns with this application?
Correct. My intent is to speak in objection to the severance consent and some of the minor variances proposed.
Fair enough, no problem. Okay, I just wanted to confirm that. So, Bogdan, we will hold down this item and come back to it to give you a chance to speak, okay? All right, so item 49 is being held. We have a speaker who has concerns. Item 50. Item 50 is 106 Park Street. And we have Peter Jerusik.
Good afternoon, committee.
Good afternoon, Peter. So, members of the committee, okay, before I do, Peter, you're aware that there's a condition from urban forestry and also engineering services for corner rounding and fence removal?
I am aware of all those conditions.
Okay, and fence removal and our plan, you're aware?
Correct. Adjusting the chain link to be on the property. Yes, I do. I'm aware of all those conditions.
Okay, all right. So just for record, this is a consent application and there are associated minor variance applications. So I guess standard conditions of consent would also apply. All right, so members of the committee, are there any questions for Peter for any of the applications, the parent application, consent, and the 2 associated minor variance applications? I see none. All right. If there are no concerns, can I please have a motion? And you could just do one motion for both, for all the applications. Member M, please go ahead.
For you, Madam Chair, I understand that this is part of. Oh wait, never mind. Is this part of a site plan? No, never mind.
No.
No, okay. Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, I have no concerns with the proposed severance and associated variances. And I put forward a motion of approval for item number 50, subject to the standard conditions of consent, as well as urban forestry condition number 1, as well as the updated corner rounding and fence removal and art plant conditions from engineering services.
Okay, may I have a seconder, please? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? And the motion is carried. Item 50 has been approved, subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay, we now move to item 51. Item 51, we have Leo Mestrandria as the speaker.
Yes, hello?
Hello, Leo. So we are looking at your application for consent and associated minor variance applications. And are you aware of all the conditions that have been provided from urban forestry and engineering services?
Yes, we are.
And you have no concerns with those conditions?
No concerns.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, we have, again, a consent and 2 associated minor variance applications for each of the lots that are being created or requested to be created. And the applicant is aware of all the conditions and has no concerns. If you do not have any questions or concerns, can I please have a motion? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I don't believe that with respect to the consent, that the lot sizes are compatible with the immediate context. All of the lots adjacent to this lot and up and down the streets, north, south, east, and west for that matter, the lot sizes are basically the size of the current lot. Splitting it in half would not be compatible. So I'm going to move refusal of both the consent and the minor variance applications.
Approval? Refusal? Oh.
Refused.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so if I can just say, because we need to give an opportunity to the applicant to defend his case or his application. So, and in any situation where any of the committee members are leaning towards a refusal, we need to hold down the item and come back to it for further discussion.
Okay.
Okay, because
Okay.
It would be unfair for us to deal with this without giving the applicant an opportunity to defend. So we have, so I guess Member Taylor has concerns with this application, so we will hold down this item and come back to it in the main body. Okay, all right. So item 51, for 141 Westbourne Avenue is being held for further discussion. So Leo, just stay online. The next one is item 52. This is 6 Mcgavin Road, and I have a conflict, so I will let Member M step up. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So item number 52 is for 6 McCowan Road. It is a consent to sever the property into 2 residential lots. I do believe there are engineering services conditions as well as urban forestry conditions. Do we have Nadeem Ifran available to speak to this item?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Perfect. Okay, Nadeem, do you have any quick comments you would like to address the committee, or if not, I can go to the committee for questions.
Through the chair, there is one. I should mention that there is one speaker that is registered, a neighbor, Janet May, that is registered to speak.
I don't see that on my list.
No, I know. We added. it was an omission, and we just added her.
Okay, I understand. So,
Thank you.
since we have a speaker, Nadeem, we will be holding down this item and we'll return to it in the main body of the meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Secretary Treasurer. With that, Madam Chair can return.
Thank you, Member M. Item 53, this is 420 Midland Avenue. And can we have Yasu, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. Yaso Somalingam.
Okay, thank you, Yasu. So we have your application for a consent and associated minor variance application. You're aware of the conditions from urban forestry and conditions from engineering services and standard conditions of consent. Do you have any concerns with those?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm aware of that, and we already on the process of doing the urban forestry reports, ABROS reports for urban forestry submission, and we are aware of the engineering conditions and standard condition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, any questions for Yasu at this time or concerns with this application? Okay, I see none. If there are no concerns or questions, can I please have a motion? Member Macaulay.
Madam Chair, I put forth a motion to approve consent application and the two variance applications for 420 Midland Avenue, subject to the standard conditions of approval.
Okay, may I have a seconder, please? Member M.
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
All in favor of this motion? Motion is carried. The application's been approved, subject to condition.
Through the chair, just for clarification, is this subject to urban forestry and ECS conditions?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And standard conditions of consent.
Thank you.
Yes, the motion included that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of the agenda for the 4 p.m. times. Oh, well, end of the agenda to period. Right, and I just want to recap the ones that we have held. Which item did we start at?
Through the chair, item 37. I can mention which ones if you want to, or would you like to?
Well, I can do that if you
Okay.
mind. So I have item 38 held, item 45 held, item 49 held, item 51 held, item 52 held.
That's correct.
Perfect, thank you. So let's get started with the first item that was held, and this is item number 38. So can we have Yasu, please? Hello, Yasu.
Yes, Madam Chair. Yes.
All right, Yasu.
Yes,
So,
Madam Chair. This is.
okay. So do you want to present or do you want to go into the questions directly?
Yeah, I can go into questions directly. Most of the variances are in minor in nature.
Okay, so just give me a second. Just pulling up. This is item 38, and this is 183 Phyllis Avenue. It is a minor variance application. Okay, so we have also two registered speakers, but before I go to them, committee members, any questions for Yasu at this time? Member M and then Member Macaulay.
So, based on your site plan, and it's just hard for me to read because it was really, really tiny. I tried to zoom in. But it does appear that both the rear wall and the front wall do align with the neighboring dwellings in terms of the uniform, building envelopes. Is that correct?
Yes, it's even front wall is about 1 or 2 feet inside, and the rear wall is about 4 or 5 feet inside. So our one is smaller compared to the neighbors.
Okay, and then your front porch that's where you're getting that projection into the front yard. I do note that the house immediately adjacent to this also has a front porch that appears to be that same extent. Are you able to confirm that sort of projection is the same? Because I'm assuming that that projection is the reason why the front yard setback is reduced to 7.9 meters. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, madam. The reason is that the zoning is done such a way that if the porch is enclosed, it's affect the front yard
I
setback.
see. So it's
And
it's not a projection, but it's actually included as the main wall. Okay.
that's right.
And then on the adjacent house as well, I believe their front porch area was enclosed, or am I'm just looking at I looked at the street view and I'm just reading my notes from the street view. So I'm just trying to assess here that pretty much everything on the front is very, very consistent with what is immediately adjacent to your proposal.
That is correct. So in our calculation, the height was calculated such a way that the existing it came little bit higher. Other than that, the elevation is pretty much same as the house.
Sorry, yes, Sue, you're really breaking up here for me. I barely heard what your response was.
It is same except the height. It may have some the height.
You may as well be speaking Greek to me. I'm not here. I'm not understanding anything. There's a connection quality issue.
Through the chair, the applicant may wish to call in.
Yes, Yasu, do you want to, can you call in? The call-in number is at the top of the agenda, but I can give you the number is 416-915-6530. 416-915-6530.
Let me call you.
Yeah, just call in. Hello?
Yeah, I'm calling. I'm calling. Asking for access for a meeting. What access code they give?
No, you're breaking out again.
I believe he's asking for the code.
2453 611 7651. It's on the screen right now.
Yes. Hello.
Hello?
Hello? Yes. So you'll have to mute your other
Can you hear us?
devices.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, that's
Can you hear it
much
now?
better. Yes, thank you. Okay, so I think I understand now. I just wanted to just confirm based on the
Through the chair, you may want to ask the applicant to mute their other device. There's some echo.
Yeah, I already muted.
There shouldn't be any echo now. I already muted. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, I was basically satisfied. It was mostly the front yard setback I wanted clarification on because it appeared in the drawings to where the main wall was, but I now understand that if the porch is enclosed, it counts as part of that. And so, I do see the rest of it is quite, reasonable and would appear to be very similar to the fairly new build right next door. So with that, I have no more questions for Yasu.
Thank you. Yes, it's similar to the next door. It's only the porch is with enclosed and with the zoning code. It's identified as it's part of the front yard. So that's why it's coming into the front yard.
Thank you. And would that also affect the coverage as well? Since it's covered, I would believe that that's also probably why your coverage is slightly bumped up.
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member M. Any more questions? Okay, all right, let's move along and we can have the neighbor Aaron Finlayson. Aaron, are you with us?
Through the chair, Aaron has not joined us today.
Okay, all right, so Philip Wolframe. Philip.
Hello again, committee members. And I'd just like to note that Aaron Finlayson at 28 Rockwood has written to the committee to allow me to speak on his behalf today. So my name is Philip Wolframe, and I currently reside at 187 Phyllis Avenue. I've been a proud member of the Cliffcrest community for 3 decades and have lived immediately beside to the east of this proposed development for the last 3 years. In an effort to facilitate expediency, I will be speaking on behalf of the immediate neighbors in opposition. As you have seen the petition letter, there are 56 individual residents who have signed our letter of objection against these variances. 11 of the names on the petition are from the immediate neighbors surrounding the proposed development. If it's convenient, can you please pull up attachment 3 from Residents Association letter of objection, just illustrating the immediate neighbors in opposition. And to be clear, once again, we are supportive of development that respects the existing characteristics of our neighborhood, but strenuously oppose overdevelopment, which removes the healthy tree canopy, reduces privacy, and removes access to the elements which make our neighborhood and homes so desirable. So can you please pull up slide number 8, which is page 1 from the Residents Association presentation. It shows the characteristics of the immediate neighborhood. And the community believes that this house is not keeping with the prevailing height, massing scale, and density in our neighborhood, which relates to official plan policy 415C. The community is very disappointed that the applicant has not attempted to introduce themselves, nor to any of the local neighbors to discuss their hopes for this house. This has not allowed us to express our concerns to come to a proposal that collaboratively as neighbors. So the overwhelming size of the proposal, as collectively admitted through variance number 1, lot coverage, variance 2, permitted floor area, and variance number 3, front yard setback, we believe will result in adverse impacts to the immediately adjacent properties and community. So specifically to the immediate properties, this includes, it's hard to see from the front, but it's apparent from the backyard that the property is already the highest topographic elevation, and the proposed structure with increased lot coverage will worsen the existing drainage problems and seasonal flooding that we have in our backyards at this site. Specifically, 183 drains towards my property at 187 and 34 Rockwood Drive. By increasing that lot coverage, you're increasing impermeable area, which is going to increase those adverse impacts that we experience each and every year and with severe weather events. Secondly, the oversized proposal will require extensive tree removal to accommodate this oversized structure, which we recognize will be dealt with by urban forestry. But speaking to the character of the community, this includes the removal of a mature hedgerow with 11 maple trees more than 40 feet tall, which you can see in the schematic, as well as strategically placed evergreens. Not to mention, the house is going into that tree in the front yard. So the removals of almost all vegetation on the property will have a significant loss of character in the neighborhood, loss of privacy, enjoyment of my yard, as well as a loss in view privacy from 2 of my 3 bedrooms, and a third of the windows on my side of the house will now be staring at a brick wall 10 feet or 11 feet away, or inside this new proposed dwelling. Can you please pull up the frontal overlay attachment 1 on page 4 in the neighbor's petition letter? So specifically to variance 3, we've discussed the front yard setback already with the proposed structure at the front. So I don't think that is a minor request, but that's I'd just like to add that this will encroach into that existing tree line as discussed earlier, destabilizing the characters of our street, which is homes with large setbacks settled among the majestic canopy of mature trees. Variance for the dwelling height. Proposed development is 0.37 meters larger than what is permitted, and even is taller than the adjacent 2-story home at 181 Phyllis, so the new development right beside it. The massing and tower effect of this proposal will loom ominously and cast a shadow over our adjacent homes, and I stress that I'm only a 1-story dwelling, and particularly given that's on the west side of myself, will be casting quite a bit of shade over my dwelling, given the height and proximity to my dwelling. The proposed development is not within the prevailing character of the homes in the immediate area and extended area. We believe the proposal represents an excessively large floor footprint while negatively impacting the abutting neighbors. The proposed new dwelling is distinctly out of character of the homes on Phyllis Avenue and does not represent appropriate development of the site. In closing, we welcome and support positive development in our neighborhood, but these variances in this application are not minor and will have a detrimental impact on our ability to enjoy our home and our neighborhood. So we join our neighbors in requesting that you please refuse this application, and we thank you for your time today to address the committee.
Thank you, Philip, for your comments. Members of the committee, any questions or comments at this time for Philip? Okay, I see none. Yasu, can we have Yasu back, please?
Hello,
Hi, Yasu. Okay, so
I'm still alive.
okay, you
Hi.
heard the comments. Would you like to respond, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, let me continue on that. I am the technical part of the concerns like the drainage problem and sort of thing. I'm pretty sure the will take care of that and will compare to that. And we can Ambrose report and we'll be applying to the open forestry for the approval before we do any work in that property. Now regarding the setbacks, the side yard setbacks are permitted at 0.9 and we have provided 1.2. So we really wanted to work with the neighbors, and then we have even more than what's required in the zoning. The front yard and rear setback we met. The only portion that the porch is coming out of not meeting the requirement as a porch, so which is coming into the setback. So other than that, we pretty much complying everything which it's a complete neighborhood and is already under house next to this, which is even deeper, and we are still and that.
Okay. Anything else, Yasu? You were breaking out again, so I'm not sure if that was the end of your comments.
Oh, you didn't hear the comments?
It was hard, but I understood him.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little choppy,
Okay,
but we understood. So is that all that you want to say?
Basically summarizing it, the side yard setbacks were allowed 0.9 meters, and we are covering 1.4, so it's more than that. And yeah.
No, you're breaking out. You're breaking out, Yasu. I think I thought you had called in.
I can quickly summarize. He was saying that the side yards exceed the bylaw requirements. The rear yard also meets the bylaw requirements. The front yard would meet the bylaw requirements if they didn't have the porch projection, and that overall he felt that it was minor. I think that that's what I heard. I did.
Yes.
Did others hear the same?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Staff has just advised me that apparently another speaker was missed on the list, so we need to bring back another speaker who had registered. So, who is the speaker?
Through the chair, the speaker is Tanya Bakst.
Okay, so Tanya Bakshkin is there. Okay, Tanya, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So you have 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Tanya Baksh, and I currently reside with my family at 214 Oak Ridge Drive for the last 20 years. I am an active member of the Cliffgrass Scarborough Village Southwest Residents Association Planning and Development Committee. We are an incorporated residents association which is registered and recognized by the City of Toronto. The Residents Association is working to preserve the unique nature of our neighborhoods and does not support the application to replace the dwelling located at 183 Phyllis Avenue. Can you please pull up the slide number 10 from the Residents Association presentation that shows the proposed development? Over the years, our members have seen the gradual increase in home size throughout the community. Generally, these developments have been done while respecting the general zoning characteristics of our neighborhood. That is, single-family homes of 1.5 to 2-story with adequate setbacks. Recently, this has been observed to change with larger and larger homes being requested, with little regard for the potential negative impacts of the neighbors. This is an egregious application example of this growing attitude. This type of development we can and will oppose at every opportunity. Can you please pull up the slide number 12 in the Residents Association that shows the proposed development? Now to the variances. Variance number 1, lot coverage, and variance number 2, floor area. Our neighborhood consists of mainly bungalows to 1.5-story to 2-story homes with spacious front, back, and side setbacks. As you can see from the drafted frontal overlay, this proposed development is well out of the range of the other homes in the immediate vicinity. It is not in keeping with the prevailing character of the neighborhood. Can you please pull up the slide number 13 included in the Residents Association presentation that shows the GFA for the immediate neighborhood on Phyllis Avenue? The proposed development is 63.87 meters squared or 22.9% greater than the allowable floor area. And this is not a minor variance request. This variance request exceeds by more than half of the home at 187 Phyllis on the east side of this proposed development. For reference, 181 Phyllis Avenue on the other side of this proposal is a newly built and within the generous zoning guidelines at 269 meters squared. This is well below what is being requested at this proposed development. As you can see from the GFA and FSI charts, this egregious proposed development is not in keeping with the character of our neighborhood. Over 90% of the homes are 1 to 1.5-story homes in the immediate vicinity and on this block of Phyllis Avenue. The remaining 10 homes are 2-story homes that are within the generous zoning guidelines, except for one at 174 Phyllis Avenue. This proposed development is too large and well out of the range of the 39 neighboring homes in these charts. Phyllis Avenue consists of 28 homes between Lowell and Rockwood Drive. The gross floor area of this block ranges from 81.66 to 328.72 meters squared, with an average of 121.72 meters squared. The 342.87 meters squared being proposed is too large and well out of the range of these and not in keeping with the prevailing character of our average of 121.72 meters squared neighborhood. The associated FSI from 0.1 to 0.45 with an average of 0.17. The proposed FSI of 0.58 is well out of the current range, including recent newly built dwellings. The proposed development is not within the prevailing character of the homes in the immediate neighborhood, as well as the extended area. The proposed development represents an excessively large floor area footprint while negatively impacting the abutting neighbors. This proposed new dwelling is distinctly out of character with the homes on Phyllis Avenue. This application does not represent appropriate development of this site. In closing, we welcome and support positive development in our neighborhood, but all these variances in this application are not minor and will have a detrimental impact on the neighboring homes. We join our neighbors in requesting that you refuse this application. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the speaker, for Tanya? Okay, thank you. Yasu, can we have you back?
Yes, hello?
Yes, Yasu.
Hello?
So you heard Tanya's concerns as well. How would you like to respond, please?
It's basically same concerns other neighbor had it. As I mentioned, the proposal, when we did the design, we pretty much did the design similar to the adjoining house, and we kept the house within the same line, and we even met the setback line exceeding what's requested. And the only height variance is coming because of the level difference. The grades were calculated a little bit differently, and that's a very, very minor. Other than that, the GFA is even now it was approved a little bit higher than this GFA on the same street. But I don't want to compare to that. But as far as I'm concerned, it's the setbacks are more important on this development than in new houses, and we are exceeding the required setbacks, and therefore I feel that this is in a way it's a minor in nature, and we request the committee to look into these matters and then grant this application.
Okay, thank you. So members of the committee, we heard all the speakers. We heard Yasu, the applicant, his response to the concerns that were raised. Any comments? Member Macaulay.
Madam Chair, could I have Brian show us the, I guess the site plan? The one applicant is, or one objector is saying that this development will remove 11 maple trees on the property and create drainage problems.
This one?
I just wanted, I guess that is where it is.
So they're already submitting that arborist report, but from what I see, I'm not seeing 11 that would be impacted. There's the front yard one seems to be remaining. There's a one on the east side, right on the
Yeah.
property line.
There's a couple down here I see as well, but
I wouldn't call it 11 though.
no, I was just wondering what that number was. Okay. And okay, thank you. Thanks, Brian.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't have anything for the applicant, Yasu. I just have some comments for discussion when we're in committee.
Sorry, say that again.
I have no further questions for Yasu, but I
Okay.
do have some comments for when we're in committee.
Okay, all right. So if there are no further comments from Yasu, can I please, Yasu, before we go in, any closing remarks? Okay, I guess there are no closing remarks. We go into the committee. Members of the committee. Yes, member M, you have
Thank
a
you.
comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So once again, you know, the five variances we have before us, Addie, can you please go and I will, it's fine, she hung up, okay? Sorry, my daughter wants to FaceTime her friend.
No problem.
Okay. Sorry, where was I? Yes, the five variances before us, really, you know, variance number 5, it's 0.12 of a meter wider for the steps. I really don't see that as a material impact. I can, Brian wants to bring up a street view, or I can even share my screen. I have it up on my screen, but you'll see that the neighbor has a front porch very similar to the design that I was looking at in the plans that really appears to mirror what is next door, which also brings me to variance number 3. And 1. So I think that because this front porch is covered and basically enclosed, it bumps up the coverage beyond what would be normally permitted. So it's not really habitable space. It's just an architectural design feature, which is really in keeping with what rates next door. With the actual FSI, yes, I see that there is an increase to the FSI, but what you have to realize with FSI is from a visual standpoint outside, that's really hard to distinguish if something is 279 meters FSI versus 342 meters. What really is distinguishable from the streetscape is your side yard setbacks, your building heights, your front yard setbacks. So, overall speaking, I've heard that he basically complies to all setbacks and then exceeds the side yard setbacks, but the front has a projection for the porch, which is, like I said, very similar to the house right next door. So I think as a result of this porch, that's why we have variance number 1, and that's why we have variance number 3. Variance number 4 for the height is 0.37 of a meter, which I convert to 1.2 feet. I mean, 1.2 feet, in my opinion, and I'm not a shadow specialist, but I can't imagine that a 1.2 foot difference from the 9-meter difference would create any more shadow impact than the as of right condition. I think the shadowing of a 2-story building is going to be a shadowing of a 2-story building, despite the variance for a 1.2 foot difference. So overall, I know that change in a neighborhood is hard, especially when it's coming from these wartime or victory bungalows, but evolution of these communities occur gradually over time as people's needs and trends change. And these lots are larger lots, and then the building setbacks permit almost as a right a larger dwelling than what you're seeing from the 1940s. And so that's why that there's this kind of renewal happening in your community. So, with that, I appreciate the concern, and the change is hard to go through. But overall, the variances before us today are very minor, both numerically and also in terms of impact. And with that, I'm prepared to support this application. I will let my colleagues continue if they have anything to add.
Member Taylor.
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of Member M's remarks on this and previous similar applications. And I would just make the observation, I think it's obvious to all of us that neighbors' concerns deal mainly with the difference between a proposal and what's on the street. And what gets ignored or set aside or forgotten about is, in my mind, the all-important issue of as of right permission, which is inherent and built into the zoning bylaw. And our main job is to look at the variances requested from those as of right provisions and assess the extent of impact. And I think I won't repeat Member M's excellent summary of the 5 variances and how really they're not significant in my mind, and they offer no deleterious impact on the neighborhood. So I'll be supporting this application as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, Member McCauley.
I appreciate what Member M has said. I appreciate what Member Taylor has said. And I have listened to a number of the items. In this particular one, most of those variances, yes, I can support. However, what we're really dealing with, and I have some difficulty with, is the overall height of the building. There is not the height, the overall size, which comes into the floor area. The proposed floor area is 342 meters squared. The permitted floor area is 328. It's a considerable amount of floor area. bearing in
78,
mind
not
what's in
28.
there.
Member Macaulay, it's 279, not I think you said 29. So I just want to make sure you realize that is not the number, because it's not nearly as big of a difference when you factor that's 279.
I actually, well, the proposed is 342, is it not?
Yes, but you said 228.
I said 328. Thank you for the correction, but in actual fact, you're making the point that it's bigger than what I even thought.
Yes,
That's all I'm going to say. It's a very large house. I would have expected that in this case, maybe the applicant would go back and reconsider some of the items. He has considered some of it. He knows what the issues are. He's been around this. I would hope that he would go and talk to the residents and see if he can make some adjustments to satisfy some of their concerns.
I respectfully disagree, and I want, can Brian please bring up the site plan? Thank you, Brian. Can you just zoom in a bit? So if you look, even more, thank you. If you look, you can see that the main wall on the front, that's a little too much. I want to be able to just see both the main wall at the front and the main wall at the rear. Thank you. You'll see that basically the main wall in the front is completely aligned, right? And then the main wall on the rear is actually less than what you're seeing at the rear wall of your adjacent properties. Plus the side yards are more generous than the bylaw requires. So visually looking at this, you would never even know that this is over the FSI, because FSI is not something you can really see externally. So if you're looking at the overall buildings, even from the air, from the street, nothing, you wouldn't necessarily know that this building is any different than any other building on this site, because it's actually well in line with what's surrounding it. And Brian, if you can bring me to now the location map. So zooming in on the location map here, look how many other buildings are much larger than even what what is being proposed on this site today. It's because that they have a wider lot. Their wider lot allows them to build wider because of the side yards. But overall, it's not really going to create this mansion as the neighbors had suggested. When you look around at 173, quite large, 175, also very large, 177, all of those things, how could you really tell the difference in FSI, especially because a two-story house is permitted as of right in the zoning bylaw right now. So
Okay.
it's going to look like a two-story house no matter what, whether you've got like 50 square meters more or not.
Letter?
And that's just my 2 cents. Like, that to me is not visually apparent when approving a variance. What is visually apparent is if it was permitting a three-story house or something that literally went all the way back to the rear property line and there was no rear yard setback. All of those things to me would signify an overdevelopment of the lot. But when you're proposing a house here that basically lines up with the building lines of every other house next to it, that to me just doesn't seem inappropriate for this house. And you would never be able to tell that the floor space area is more than the minimum requirement by the bylaw. And that to me is why I feel that this is definitely minor in nature, because you would never be able to distinguish otherwise.
Thank you, Member M. I think you have described it quite well in terms of the visual effects of the FSI versus lot coverage or other regulatory parameters. So I appreciate that description. On that note, I think we've had a good discussion. We've spent almost 45 minutes on this one. Can we now proceed with a motion, considering the time of the day we're at?
Sure, I'm prepared to put forward a motion of approval subject to the urban forestry conditions, number 2 and number 3. There are no other conditions to note, Madam Chair.
Okay, may I have a seconder, please? Member Taylor seconds
Second,
the,
I will second the motion, Madam Chair.
okay, thank you, Member Taylor. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? Okay, I'm in favor of this motion. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Thank you. We can now go to the next item, and the next item is item 45 that was held? Okay, so item 45, 1478 to 1496 Kingston Road. We have Brett Thomas Lewin.
Hi, Madam Chair.
Hi,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, I pronounced your first and last. I didn't really understood your pronunciation for your middle name. So it's Brett Llewellyn?
No. Llewellyn Thomas, correct.
Okay, all right. Sorry, my apologies for that. So Brett Llewellyn Thomas, you're with us. You're the applicant, and you will be representing the owner today?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, all right. So we have your application before us. We've reviewed all the materials. Would you like to make a presentation or go right into the questions from the committee members?
I have a quick presentation.
Okay, sure. You have 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon to the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and for your time reviewing our file. We are seeking a minor variance for relief in 2 areas to allow for the bay window projections located on the north facade at the 3rd and 4th level, and to allow for minor reduction in parking spaces for geotechnical reasons. There's absolutely no change in height or density proposed. We are seeking the variances due to complications that have arisen during the detailed design of the project. The projections mentioned are on the north elevation on the 3rd and 4th level. These have been part of the design intent since early 2019 during the rezoning process. During site plan review, zoning provided comments which indicated that while these projections were originally contemplated within the rezoning process, their encroachments within the rear yard setback were not reflected in the final iteration of the bylaw. We are seeking this technical amendment to the bylaw to allow for this original permission and continue forward with the original design intent. The variance supports community planning objectives in several ways. It improves the architecture of the facade, adding articulation to the building instead of having a flat wall with balconies. The variance is only for a small portion of the north facade, floors 3 and 4. The rest of the facade is in keeping with the site-specific zoning bylaw, and it allows the suites to be designed for families, offering space for children or areas of work and study. Our goal is to create a well-designed building for families to meet the city's growing up guidelines and urban design priorities. The minor variance requested today will support this goal. Regarding parking, we are requesting a variance to remove 16 parking spaces located on the 4th underground level, taking on-site parking from 172 stalls to 156 stalls. During detailed design, the hydrogeological investigations found that the 4th parking level infringes on the water table. This causes complications to the construction and maintenance of the garage and impacts the financial viability of the project. The variance will allow the underground foundation to be brought up above the water table. There will be no change in the shared use visitor or commercial parking. The building has 32 visitor and retail spaces for residences and retail businesses in the surrounding community. On the residential demand side, the project has been selling units since late 2020. There is less demand for parking with a ratio below 50%, meaning there are twice as many units being sold as parking stalls being sold, leading to an oversupply of parking in this case. The site is supported by lots of public transit. There's an adjacent bus stop providing direct access to the well-serviced TDC routes along Kingston Road. Victoria Park subway station and Main GO station are located nearby, and the waterfront trail cycling network runs in front of the site. The city has also identified Kingston Road as a transit corridor priority for initiatives to provide more frequent public transit, as well as services such as dedicated bus lanes. Further, our project offers car share parking and significant bicycle infrastructure to support alternative methods of transportation. The minor reduction in parking supports the goals of the city to achieve net zero by reducing traffic congestion and encouraging public transit for the betterment of community and environmental health. And electrical vehicle charging stations are also provided as an alternative to traditional automobile transportation. In conclusion, we are at the Committee of Adjustment today to request minor variances for these 2 items. The requested variances keep with the purpose and intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw. They are minor in nature and support appropriate and desirable development for the area. We appreciate your time and consideration on our file. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brett. Members of the committee, after this presentation, any questions of Brett? Okay. Oh, Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, and I really request this to be clarified. I understand that the applicant is objecting to providing a corner rounding to the municipality. Can the applicant comment on that and why he is objecting to this minor corner rounding?
Brett, could you please respond?
I don't believe that's for our application. I've never heard that comment before.
I think Member Macaulay, I'm not sure where you've read that comment or concern.
There was a corner rounding for a different application on Kingston Road, and I think that could be the confusion.
Oh, I see. Okay. So for this application, there's no corner rounding being required, or the applicant has no concern or anything related to corner rounding. It may have been a different application.
Through the chair, just corner roundings would only be able to be secured through a consent application.
Okay, so I think that clarifies, Member Macaulay. It's not related to this application. Mohammed, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brett, I would like if you further elaborate on I understand the number of dwellings in this 11-story building will be 198. And just further clarify, how many parking space has been exclusively dedicated for the residents, for the dwellings? And if you are short, how many number you are short for the parking space for the residents?
It will be 16 spaces short. There are currently 140 residential spaces, and there will be, through this proposal, 124 residential spaces. There are also 32 visitor and commercial spaces that are not being adjusted on this proposal.
And Brett, have you done the parking study on this?
There is. There was an updated parking study completed on April 23rd, 2021 by WSP's traffic engineers, and it was submitted with the application.
And also the fact that this is going through a site plan application, and the appropriate departments and agencies and staff have looked at those reports, and I have not seen any concern or comment letter from any department regarding having concerns with the traffic or parking.
And just to clarify, I think you touched upon this, sir, but the parking modifications is as a result of trying to meet other technical requirements that were identified through the site plan process, correct?
Correct. It was the geotechnical investigations of the partial fourth level. In order to hit the 140 residential parking spaces, we have to corkscrew down into a fourth parking level, which pushes us into the water table. So we're just asking to...
Which is unsafe, I understand. So instead of providing the adequate number of parking, but within a design that would likely not be supported by engineering services, you have opted to come forward with a minor variance to reduce the required number of parking. And from your communications with staff reviewing the site plan application, they were supportive of that approach.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions before I move on to the member in opposition? Okay, see none. All right, members, sorry. Ali, could you please confirm if we have Chris with us? All right, Chris?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, good afternoon, committee.
Good afternoon, sir. So you have 5 minutes. Please describe what your concerns are on this application.
So I'm the business owner directly adjacent to this development, as well my family owns the property adjacent to this development at 1476 Kingston Road. I've had many dealings with the developer, and in good faith, we've been negotiating different agreements to help facilitate this development. In regards to the parking reduction that's being sought for this development, I would like to point out that during its rezoning, the city did provide relief in terms of parking. According to the bylaws, the Birchcliff bylaw and the City of Toronto bylaw, this development would have had 199 parking spaces required. The city provided relief and allowed for a minimum of 172 parking stalls, which aligns with the future plan for the City of Toronto and encouraging different methods of transportation. This developer now is seeking an additional 16 parking stall reduction relief from a relief already given. And Brett mentioned himself that this is a financial burden to the project, not considering what the burden will be to the neighboring properties as well as the neighboring houses. But I would like to point out that I feel as if this developer has been relying on this minor variance for quite some time. If you look at the architectural plans and you look at the P4 level that they are looking to eliminate now, you will notice that this P4 level has 21 parking stalls and not 16. But a little bit more concerning is that this developer put an accessible parking space down there with no elevator. So, see, this is where, can you tell me the date of this drawing here?
This one?
Yeah. It should be, is this dated for June 29th, 2021? If you go to the top of the drawing, it will state it at the top. It should state it at the top. Top.
Oh, in the revision section?
If you go to the left top, nonetheless, this is the June,
There you go.
yes, the most recent one, June 29th, 2021, correct?
It's March
This is March
26th.
26th. Okay, so if you go back to P4 level, you will notice that there's 21 parking stalls on this level. And you'll also notice there at the bottom right corner, there's an accessible parking stall. There is no elevator access to this in this drawing, which leads me to believe that the developer entered this on false pretenses, knowingly that they were going to rely on this minor variance, which in my eyes is not minor. And so they were relying on this because I can't see the logic behind putting an accessible spot on P4 with no elevator access. That's actually quite concerning. That's the one concern. And like I mentioned, 21 stalls are on this P4 level, and they've asked to eliminate this completely. Brett talked about P4 infringing on the water table. This wouldn't be the first development that infringes on a water table. There are quite a few throughout the City of Toronto that infringe on the water table, and many developers understand this and then look at bathtub foundations as a way to work around the water table. It's not unsafe. It is common in the City of Toronto, especially for developments closer to the lake like this one. So I encourage this committee to really think about this parking reduction. As a business owner, I have a laundromat that services the neighborhood. It's been servicing the neighborhood for well over 35 years. It doesn't just service the immediate apartments, it actually services a lot of the houses around that do rely on parking. There was one thing that I did
Okay,
want to
sorry. I
mention
will.
that,
Sorry, Chris. You may want to wrap up your comments. You've exceeded your 5-minute time limit. So if you could just wrap up your comments, please.
sure, the city has pointed out to the developer in its comments quite a few times that the rezoning didn't allow for a P4, and the developer did acknowledge that, and in one of their comments said that it's been reduced to just 3 levels. So I do want to mention that as well.
Okay, well, that's not under my jurisdiction or our jurisdiction to talk about how many levels of parking. What we have before us is what I can confidently speak to you about are the parking spaces. Just bear with me, Member M.
Yes, but I did.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did want to just, the reason I brought that up was because one of the committee members said that this was in consultation with the city, that they haven't raised any concerns and they've been telling them and encouraging them to not infringe on the water table. That is not actually correct. if you look at the comments with the city.
Okay, so I have not looked at the comments from the city. I've read a staff report that was presented to or provided to the committee through this application. That is an information report that is available, which I'm sure you have a copy of as well. And it provides the description and in terms of, you know, the fact that there's a site plan application that's going on. And with my experience, I can tell you that through the site plan control application, all relevant departments and agencies review these applications, experts look at it, provide their comments. Although that's not my jurisdiction to speak on behalf of that, but I can say that I'm pretty confident that whichever department or agency is looking at the water table or the aquifer condition, they are probably looking at it and are going to take care of those issues at their end through that process. What I can tell you is that what I have before us is a public notice for 4 variances for this development proposal. Okay?
Correct.
Okay. So thank you very much. Amy, you have a comment.
Yes, apologies, Madam Chair. I just noticed, even though I reviewed the whole package, I did just notice that the architect on file, I would have a conflict with that. So is it too late to back out of this? As a conflict, I didn't recognize that through my review. If I could have staff provide direction.
So I
I
just
no longer work for the company, but
I just checked
I
with
mean,
staff.
it's still very fresh.
Yeah, so I just checked with staff. So I would say from here on, you can excuse yourself and you will no longer be participating in this discussion.
Apologies, everybody. Thank
That's
you.
okay. That's okay. It happens. It's fine. Okay, so we have, so here we are now. So on this note, I think we can go back to Brett.
I think my response would be to confirm that we are looking for 16 parking spaces, for a reduction in 16 parking spaces. And just as a general note, I do believe that accessible stalls are an important part of community building. And with the revised drawings, if this variance is proposed, that stall has been accounted for so that we hit all of our accessible stall numbers. And if transportation has any issues with the location, you know, pending this not going forward, we will look at that location as well, because I think it is a very important part of development.
I agree with you, Brett. I think that is an important factor, although it's not associated with the minor variance application, but in itself, it needs to be looked at, and I'm sure the relevant departments or the city staff are going to look at it. In terms of what I'm concerned about, or sorry, what I should be concerned about is the parking spaces and the variances that are before us. You're asking for a reduction in parking. Of 150 spaces are required, of which 124 are proposed for residential dwelling type. So basically, I'm looking at that variance and just kind of commenting on that one. So I will not comment on accessible parking, but I think it's something that you should look into. Okay. Any other sorry, Brett, is there any other response that you would like to provide?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. Members of the committee, before I take this matter into committee, any questions or comment for Brett at this time? I see none. Okay. Well, thank you, Brett, for your time. I will now take the matter into committee. Members of the committee, you heard the comments. You heard concerns from the applicant. Sorry, concerns from the neighbor or the local business owner, and you also heard the rebuttal and the response. Any remark or further discussion? Member Macaulay, were you trying to say something?
Yes, I'm sorry. Are you asking for us to now go into a discussion on this item?
Well, I'm saying if you have a remark, or would you like to have a discussion, or if you are ready for a motion.
All right, I would like to have a discussion on this item. A couple of things are bothering me on this one. The setbacks and the corner roundings and all of those other things, I think are items that the building setbacks I'm not going to be concerned with. The parking is an item that is of concern. The applicant has said they've got two justifications for their parking reduction. One is that in the sale of the units, not many people are buying the parking spaces. That's really an economic decision as to whether their spaces are being well priced. And it's also a decision from the individual at this time as to whether they need a parking space. I have some concerns that this is an area of Kingston Road and Warden, and in spite of the fact that it's going to be designated as improved transit corridor, we don't see those improvements. But we may see those improvements by the time that this gets built. So I'm bearing in mind that, yeah, maybe a third of the parking isn't needed because none of the bachelors are going to be even offered a parking space, and they really just can't afford to pay additional for the parking space. I'm also a little concerned that people will buy the unit and will not realize that, hey, when I get to move in, I have no place to put the car because 4 or 5 years ago when I bought the unit, I didn't think about what I was going to do with the car. So that's all human nature, and it concerns me a little. Bearing on the other part of it, I recognize that it's not good to have to build where you've got a high water table. It costs more. It can be done, but again, it's not desirable. And so I can see not having a fourth floor for parking really saves the developer money because he would have to put extra expense in for that. And it also is not desirable to have the parking level or any basement come into the water table. So on this application, I'm a little conflicted. We're dealing with maybe an affordable housing. I didn't ask that question. Certainly, we're dealing with a number of bachelor units, and we're also dealing with an issue that the applicant has said is an expense, and an expense that people are not wanting to spend in order to buy a parking space. So that's where I'm at. I'm on this one. I'm very much conflicted with the parking requirement and the costs and the technical concerns that have been raised. I'd like to hear what other members have to say.
Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. I'm wedded to the idea that it's good to avoid excavating into the groundwater, even though, as you say, Member Macaulay, that can be done. There's an engineering solution that would enable it. However, diverting groundwater, and I have some experience from a building I was involved with years ago, does create problems for other properties because water is going to go somewhere. So even if you protect your building, you're going to create a problem for somebody else potentially. I would rather avoid the water table and allow a slightly reduced number of parking spaces. And I'm personally, I'll say I'm supportive of this project.
Okay, thank you, Member Taylor. And as I said, I mean, we also have to look at the location. With all the provincial policies directing planning community and planners to work towards more transit-oriented communities, more walkable communities, people relying less on cars. I totally understand, Member Macaulay. In today's time, yes, everyone wants to have a car and everyone wants to own a car, but what I'm also hearing is from the development community that there's a less demand for parking in certain locations. For instance, on a location like this on Kingston Road, there is access. It's an avenue. There is transit available. People who will buy into this development will know. If they own 3 cars, they will know that this is not a place for them to buy. If they own no car, maybe yes. If they own one car, yes. But for people who own more than one car or two cars, they will never buy into these properties, into these apartments. So I don't think people won't have three cars and buy a unit that doesn't allow them to to have more than one car parking space. So I think we need to leave some to the developers who perhaps understand the market and the community, the sort of the sales side of it or the marketing side of it better than us, right? I think what we need to, as the committee members here, need to focus on the four tests and the parking variance that's before us. If in your opinion it does not meet the intent of the zoning bylaw, if it doesn't meet the intent of the official plan, if it's not desirable, if it's not minor, then you make a case. But to go to other, to look into, start looking into other things is, like who's going to be buying, or if I buy, I don't have parking space. I think those are irrelevant to this discussion. I think we need to focus on the variance itself. That's my 2 cents here. And I trust our city staff. There's a process that's underway right now. It's called site plan control application process. And parking studies, hydrogeological studies, geological studies, those are all part and requirements of that process. And I'm sure engineers who are experts in that subject, in that discipline, have looked into it and provided their opinion and on those. And I'm not getting there, but I'm saying is that we need to rely on our experts as well at the city. I clearly am not an expert on underground water. I may have little knowledge, but I will never, can challenge an engineer to say, well, and talk about water issues on any property. So on that note, I think we have had enough discussion. We need to make a decision on this application. It is 6:20. We've spent 40 minutes on this application.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to table a motion. I find the variances to be in keeping with the 4 tests. I'm particularly focused on the parking variances, and as I said, I don't know enough about the economy of consumer behavior and all the implications. Just seems to me, though, in this day and age, a slight reduction in the number of parking spaces required is not unreasonable. And as I alluded to before, especially if by providing the required number of parking spaces, excavating into groundwater would be required. I don't think that's desirable. I think the building and the number of units is desirable in this area. Again, Madam Chair, you referenced the Places to Grow Act. I think this is exactly the type of development and exactly the type of location that we should be encouraging. So I'm going to move approval without conditions.
Thank you, Member Taylor. May I have a seconder, please? Is there a seconder to the motion for approval? The motion fails. Can I have a motion? Committee members, I need a motion. Member McCauley, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to put forth a motion here. I note there's 198 dwelling units and 124 parking spaces, so there's a big range between 1 car per dwelling unit. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there were conditions that staff wanted to have attached to this. There's
I don't see
a
any.
parking study, a supplementary agenda, site plan control. I can't very quickly look at all the conditions.
No, there's a community planning information report on this application, and that's about it. I do not have any information from staff on any condition.
Through the chair, there is a community planning information report. That is the only staff report. There are parking studies that have been submitted in support of this application and in support of the site plan application that's currently under review.
Do we have, to staff, do we have any comments from transportation planning?
Transportation Services did not provide any comments, and if they do not provide any comments, you can assume that they do not have any issues with the application. If they had issues, they would provide comments.
Okay, and if I just want to point out to something that's glaring in this report as well. If you look at the second last paragraph of this report, as we all know, the Planning Act doesn't allow minor variance application or amendments to applications within 2 years of approval of any zoning bylaw. Staff took a report to council on July 14 to City Council. They adopted a motion to allow a minor variance application through resolution to be brought forward to this committee. I think that in itself, to me, and this is my personal opinion and take on it, that tells you that the council also perhaps did not see any issue with a minor variance application being forwarded to the Committee of Adjustment. That's my 2 cents here. I'm not saying that that suggests any encouragement or support of an application, but in principle, they did not see a concern with a minor variance application being forwarded to a Committee of Adjustment for the parking and for other matters. That in itself also tells you something.
Yes, Madam Chair, I recognize that. I read that. There was a staff report, and council in July, so just last month, approved the variance application to go forward in spite of the fact that the rezoning application is less than 2 years old.
Correct.
So I do recognize that there is some concern and some desire for this application to proceed. As I said, I was conflicted. I've got some problems with this. I have experience with building where you've got a high water table and the cost of having to waterproof the parking garage. I've done it in at least 3 locations, one being Yonge and Eglinton, where we went down 4 stories, heaven forbid, in a parking garage and had this problem. So I know there's additional costs, which is why I was asking about, is it affordable? Because those additional costs will be passed on. I'm conflicted, but we don't have a recommendation for approval. We don't have a seconder.
Well, we had a motion on the floor to approve. No one seconded it, so the motion failed. So now I need another motion.
Are you prepared to put forth a motion to approve?
Myself?
Yeah.
As
You're a member.
Well, I have to ask you first. If you guys are not prepared, then it comes to me. But I would perhaps create a tie here in this situation because we're 4. So if I put forward any motion, it could create a tie. So who will break the tie? So you haven't left me in that position.
Through the chair, you're absolutely correct. Through the rules of procedure, if there's an even number, the chair cannot vote.
Yeah, if the 5th member was here, if Amy was here, I could have certainly put forward a motion, but I can't in this situation because I can create a tie.
All right. Every once in a while, I have attended meetings where don't like the proposal, held my nose and voted in support. And that's what I'm going to do here. I don't want this item to have to go back to City Council or to another committee of us, or even to be appealed. I'm going to support Dawn's motion.
So it has to be a brand new motion, and it could be done either by yourself or Dawn can proceed with a motion, but it has to be a brand new motion because that motion failed.
I'd be happy to move again. And I'm going to change my tack a little bit. What I said before was I felt the variances were in keeping with the 4 tests. I still believe that. I believe that a slight reduction in parking spaces balanced against the potentially dangerous need to excavate into groundwater if that can be avoided, I think slightly fewer parking spaces is reasonable. I would add, also supporting my feeling on this, City Council did okay this application, not the application, but the right to apply.
Correct.
And we don't have any professional recommendations that are contrary to the proposal. I'm thinking principally of community planning and transportation. They haven't weighed in with negative commentary on this. So yeah, that would be my motion again to approve unconditionally.
Okay, may I have a seconder now?
I will second that motion.
Member,
Um,
okay, that's all I need. Member Ann seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the application is approved. Thank you. All right, can we have member M back, please? Member M, you can come back.
Here, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we can now move to item 49, I believe it was. And this is 158 Mans Road. And it was held because we had a neighbor. So can we have Jesse Kenneth?
Yeah, so on behalf of me, Kulvinder will talk for 158 Mansay Road.
So Kulvinder will present?
Yes.
Okay, so we have Kulvinder.
Yeah, hi, everybody.
Hi, Kulvinder. So would you like to do a presentation or would you rather go right into the questions?
Yeah, I will have a very quick presentation on this.
Sure.
So we are serving the existing property into three residential lots, 158, 158A, 158B, and then we are demolishing the existing dwelling unit and then proposing 2 stories with the basement suite with the secondary suite in the basement. And to this application, we received 4 variants. And the very first variance is about the front lot, the lot frontage, which is 10.15 meters. However, the required is 12 meters. And I would like to stress that there are some lots in the neighborhood which are equivalent to 15 meters or even 9.14 meters in the neighborhood. And so I request the committee to please to consider this variance, variance number 1. Furthermore, talking about the variance number 2, it is about the maximum height of the front wall, which is permitted as 7 meters. However, we are proposing 7.62 meters. I would like to give one very important note in front of the committee is that the permitted total height is 9 meters. We are within the variation of 9 meters. However, only the front wall height is 7.62, which is we are proposing. So I really request the committee to please consider this point. The variance number 3 is the variance number 3 is the permitted maximum height for the established grade, which is 1.2 meters, the permitted one. And we are proposing 1.22 meters, which is very minor in nature, hardly 0.02 meters. So it's again minor in nature. And the variance number 4 is about the proposed area of balcony of 6.72 square meters on the second floor. I would like to tell the committee that we're gonna eliminate this variance. We're gonna propose the balcony area for 4 square meters. So eventually the variance number 4 will be eliminated and we will be left with only 3 variances, which all are very minor in nature. Thank you so much.
So this is for all the parts?
Yes, this is all. This is for everything.
Okay,
For all the parts, for the rest of the parts too, I mean.
Okay, so you want to withdraw variance number 4 from each of the parts?
Yes, yes, Chairman.
Okay, so it's only you're only withdrawing variance number 4 under each part. There's no other modification, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. So for the benefit of everyone who's listening and for committee members, want to reconfirm that the applicant has confirmed that they are withdrawing variance number 4 from each of the parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, and variance number 4 pertains to the maximum area of platforms above the second story. Okay? So remember, it's the variance that is being withdrawn, not the permission to build a platform, but just the variance. Okay, thank you for that. Anything else, Kulvinder, before I move to the members?
Oh, no, that's it from my side.
Okay, all right. Members
And,
of the committee?
sorry.
Sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I just want to add one more thing. We don't have any objection from any of the staff of the committee planning. So I would like to address that thing. And we have no other objection letter from any of the neighborhood on the Development Authority website. However, we just got to know that here only that one of our neighbors is opposing our application. We didn't had any clue of this before this webinar.
Okay, no problem. It happens, you know. Sometimes people, when they receive notices, they come to these hearings, and that's where you find out. So it's not a big issue. Okay, so members of the committee, any questions for Kulvinder? Okay, I see none. And Kulvinder, just, I know I will probably come back to you again, but you know the conditions of urban forestry and engineering services and standard conditions
Yes,
of consent?
yes.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
you're aware of that.
we
Okay.
acknowledge that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Committee members, any question? Oh, we've lost Dawn. Dawn, can you hear us? Okay, we'll carry on and hopefully he can join. Okay. Members of the committee, any questions for Kulvinder? Okay, all right. So Kulvinder, just stay with us. I'm going to go to Bogdan and Jonessi.
That's 45 minutes each.
Dawn, you're unmuted. Okay, sorry. So Dawn, we had lost your video and you were unmuted. So could you mute yourself and keep your video on? So Bogdan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and committee members. I recognize we're about 2 hours or more since Member Macaulay had mentioned that it was a long agenda, and I recognize it, and I know I'm potentially keeping a few of us from from dinner. But I did want to make, and I recognize I've heard the presentation from Ms. Kaur, and she may have turned a little bit on its head. What normally happens, it's normally a proposed applicant who sometimes reaches out to neighbors. It's obviously not a requirement, but it does tend to be something that would happen if they wanted to know. I recognize I've had the neighbors at 185 Darlingside Drive and at 165 Mance reach out to me because they had felt uncomfortable with the virtual hearing process and so on. So to the extent that I am speaking on any neighbor's behalf, I do speak for those other 2 neighbors. I am at 185 Darlingside Drive, which is also adjacent to the lot that is proposed to be severed. And what I'm actually going to suggest here, and actually it's been, I thank the committee for how it looked at the other issues. It was actually a lesson for me in how the Planning Act is actually applied on a day-to-day. But I'll say that. I recognize the variance that was withdrawn, in fact, was minor, and the other one that's number 3 on all the parts is entirely minor. What I'll suggest to the committee as a submission is essentially that we have here a severing of a lot in 3. And actually, I'll note, I think, just based on the agenda and the number of applications, this is the only such application before the committee today in the entirety of its agenda. And the variances, while they may be minor in any one of them, do have a cumulative effect. What we have here is essentially a raised bungalow that is proposed to be demolished, severed in three, and all of a sudden the bulk in the neighborhood is three full two-story with a full basement that almost amounts to 3 stories put on that lot, which is 30 meters wide. So I'd point out, and I won't, I've learned that the committee members are quite familiar with the 4 tests, and I'm sure they're also very familiar with the 13 factors that are under the Planning Act in section 51 sub 24 for consent on severing. I have heard nothing from the applicant on any of those, and I'd actually say this committee has very little to go on other than the materials that are there in evidence that were filed by the applicant. I recognize that there's also no specific expert. Ms. Kaur is not an expert in and of itself. So to that extent, the committee might not wish to rely entirely on the weight. We've heard of no other lots that are similarly sized on that street. I think Ms. Kaur made reference to some lots in the neighborhood. I'm not sure what she's referring to. I also would raise an issue that I normally wouldn't think would be raised in a committee of adjustment type of hearing, but there's a bit of a credibility issue here, and I don't know if Brian has the ability to, through Madam Chair, to pull up the applications. Essentially what we have at the top of page 2 of all of those, and I'll describe them whether it can be shown on screen or not, is the agent for the applicant, which is with the same firm as Ms. Kaur, essentially answers the question, is the property subject to private tree bylaw? No. And that happens in all of the applications. But I obviously don't have the evidence other than if Brian can pull Street View or page 1 of the superseded plans where there's a photo of the neighborhood. And I'll say this, the site is obviously has at least 4 trees that are probably a meter in diameter. So I obviously wouldn't be able to measure. But the fact that you have an applicant who replied no to that question and didn't identify those trees on the plans would suggest that the committee should place little or less weight on the evidence that it has from the applicant on more generally what is happening. But what I'll say on the 4 tests and the desirability and the general purpose of the zoning bylaw and how this meets it, really we're looking at building 3 houses, or the applicant is looking at building 3 houses of significant height, significant bulk, in what is a raised bungalow type of spot. And if either street view can be pulled or that photo that is on the cover page of the superseded plans, you will notice that it's either raised bungalows or at most 2-story houses on the entirety of the street on what amounts to 15-meter lots on both sides. For as far as the eye can see, on the other side of the street, there are only 1-story bungalows. So I would suggest that those parts of the 4 tests that have to do with the character of the neighborhood, the bulk, and so on, are completely not in keeping with it. We're talking about 6 residential units. We've heard about the secondary suites in the basement. I'd also propose that just based on the plans that we've seen, it's the bulk of the buildings would increase by 4.5 to 5 times what is currently there, which is unprecedented for that street, despite what we may have heard from Ms. Kaur. I also recognize that there is an intensification purpose there, and I fully support it. I would suggest that had the applicant looked at potentially severing the lot in 2.
So I'm sorry
Sorry,
Mr. Bogdan, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you're done, your time's up. So I would say 15 seconds, please wrap up.
For sure. I think I've made my point. We've heard from Member Taylor on bulk. We've heard from Member Macaulay on economic basis. I suggest that does have a profit or an economic purpose, but that's not a relevant consideration in variances. And with that, I'll wrap up my presentation, answer any questions that the members of the committee might have.
Okay, I just want to clarify that in your conversation, your commentary, you mentioned a couple of times about raised bungalows being sort of prevalent in that street. So just so you know, 2-story single detached houses are permitted as of right in the zoning. So for any revitalization of the neighborhood to occur as redevelopment occurs, 2-story single detached dwellings are permitted as of right. What we have before us, I don't see any variance here that is asking for an increase in height or increase in number of stories. I think it's within the parameters of the permitted height. It's the height of the first floor that is being requested as a variance for, but that really doesn't increase the overall height of the building. It's just how the floor heights are calculated. And the other one I can refer to, the height is the height of the wall heights, and that is more to sort of regulate the build form. And that's about it, but it's not, again, it's not increasing the height of the building itself. And the third one is the lot frontage variance. So I really couldn't correlate your comments on single-story bungalows with, the build form that's being proposed. Member M, you have a question, go ahead.
It's actually more of a statement. I find it very inappropriate for the commenter to question the credibility of an architect. It's well within the owner's right to have their architect represent them at the Committee of Adjustments. It is a box that can be selected on that form. They don't have to hire a planner in order to represent their application. And it made me very uncomfortable for him to have questioned the credibility of this architect numerous times during that statement. I don't think that that was appropriate nor required. So aside from that, I do wanted to speak a little bit also about his comments with regards to the lot size. So I myself have access to Geo Warehouse, and I took a look at some of the lots along Mance Avenue, and number 136, 138, 140 are all within that exact 33-meter lot frontages on Geo Warehouse. So for him to say that, you cannot rely on the examples provided by the architect who spoke previously, I think is unfounded and unprofessional and unrequired. So I just wanted to quickly say that if you open the location map, Brian, there's very clear evidence, and I can point towards exactly where these lots that I have listed are, that are precisely 33 meters in width, which clearly shows that this street has a variation in lot frontage. So if we look at exactly where the label Mance Road is, if you pan down, please. Those 4 lots there, exactly, those 4 lots there, and I can share my screen to provide evidence to this effect. They're all 33 meters in frontage. And like I said, I have pulled this information from Geo Warehouse, which is tied directly to Terranet data, which is required through surveys. So I just would like to say that, I understand what he's trying to achieve here, but I don't feel his comments were founded. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member M, for your comments. So I think we've had a good discussion on that. Let's go to the applicant. And so do we have the applicant now? Kulvinder, are you back? Okay, so Kulvinder, you heard Mr. Bogdan's concerns, and would you like to respond to those comments?
Thank you everybody for their feedback. Since our neighbor has pointed on the lot survey, the survey of the lot, and as one of the member of the committee has mentioned from the reliable sources that the other lots like 140, 138 has a similar size of the lot frontage, which is 10.04 or 10.11 respectively for the lot 140 and 138. And from the reliable source references, I have a lot number 118B, 116A, 116B, which has 9.26, 9.04 meters and 9.24 meters of the lot frontage. So I will request the committee that to please consider our lot frontage of 10.15 meters. Apart from that, we don't have any objections or any comments from the staff of committee planning, which actually reflects that our variances are actually very minor in nature. And apart from that, they have actually they have no other consent. They have accepted the consents of ours. And yes, and one thing I would like to add is like 138 lot number, it is a new construct with a flat roof, which is different in character. However, our dwelling unit, our development is very similar with the physical characteristics of the neighborhood. So I request the committee to please accept our, or to please look forward to our application. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Kulvinder. Any comments or questions for Kulvinder? I see none. Okay, all right. So are we prepared to take the matter into committee? All right, let's do it. So Kulvinder, we're going to take the matter into committee. The committee does not have any further questions to ask of you. So let's get going. Open for discussion or remarks, or prepared for a motion? Member M.
I'm prepared for a motion, subject to my fellow committee members having no other comments.
So any comments?
Okay.
All right.
Seeing none. Sorry, Member Said, did you have a further comment? I heard something.
No, thank you very much. You can go ahead for the motion. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Through the chair, just a reminder, for, you may want, they do have modified variances, so it would be, if it was an approval, as amended.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
thank you.
So should you approve it to be amended, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I put forward a motion to approve item number 49. I will first go over the severance approval, which is B0049/20SC. With that, I'm going to tie the urban forestry conditions and the engineering services conditions for the R plan and the road widening and the standard conditions of consent to the consent application. And this is as amended. Well, actually, the as amended is for the variance. So excuse me, I'm dealing with the consent right now. I do feel that this is definitely appropriate, as there is a wide array of lot sizes and lot frontages along Mance Avenue and the surrounding immediate community. And I feel that the fabric is appropriate for the development of the community. And moving on to the variance applications associated with these consents, I will tie the
You don't have to
I
tie.
believe the urban.
No.
I don't have to tie because I do to the
No,
consent.
you've
Okay,
already
thank
tied it to the parent application.
Thank you. I will, I move approval of the minor variance application as amended, which removes variance number 4 from all 3 parts, part 1, part 2, and part 3. So no variance for the platform required. Thank you.
May I have a seconder, please? Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to second the motion for approval of item number 49.
Okay, all in favor? Perfect. The application has been approved, subject to the conditions as listed, and I hope staff has put that all. Perfect. Okay, so I believe we're on the last item for the day, and that is 6 Mcgavin Road, and that is the one that I have a conflict on. This is item 52. So over to you, Member M. You are muted. There's another one?
Isn't item 51? Don't we have item 51 before 52?
Oh, yes, 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 yes. Thank you, thank you. Okay, I had initially crossed it out and then, thank you. All right, so 141 Westbourne Avenue, Leo Mestrangia. Can we have Leo, please? Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, perfect. Sorry, Leo, I didn't mean to forget about this. It just slipped through. So, Leo, we have you. Members of the committee, questions for Leo? I can't remember why this was held. Can
Through the chair, the reason why is that Member Taylor had issues with the
Correct.
application.
Correct.
So the applicant may wish to do a presentation if they choose.
Leo, would you like to do a presentation?
Yes, please.
Please go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, so we've submitted 55 letters of support, including the adjacent neighbors. We have a signed letter from 137, and we have verbal support from 143, which are both adjacent neighbors. We've submitted 44 pages of supporting material, including photos of similar projects and decisions of similar variances, including a lot study. If you could please turn to page 13 of our submission.
Page 13.
Yes.
Just hold on, Leo. Brian's pulling it up. Sorry about that. No pressure, Brian.
So,
Oh.
So based on our lot studies, there's 89 lots with similar lot frontage and lot area in the immediate area, and 30 specifically are on Westbourne. I'd like to draw your attention, if you look at the map, right across the street at number 142 and 144, if you look at page number 2 of my submission, those are directly across the street. If you look at page 3 of my submission, these are on the same side as our property, and they're consistent with what we are trying to achieve. If you look at page number 4 of my submission, a similar was approved at 101 Westbourne. Number 5 of my submission, 85 A and B, was all.
Leo, I think we've lost you.
Hello? Leo? Leo, we have lost you. Can you hear us?
Brian, can you go back to the summary map that shows the site in relation to these examples, please? Okay, so the site is the one in gray? Yes, okay. And so then the red, I'm assuming, the red numbering is all of the lot sizes? We'll have to wait for Leo to come back. Because they're like
That
exactly the
that
same.
would be appear to be correct. It's 7.62. The
So
lot
they're
frontage.
all 7.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, Leo, you're back. We had lost you for
Sorry, I'm not sure what happened.
seconds. Yes.
So if you look at where we're at, page number 6 of my submission, again, is all, and these are all on Westbourne. These are all photos of Westbourne and the exact same lot frontage, exact same lot area, and similar variances in all of them. And I have page 7 as well, has 3 lots that are similar. Page number 8 has also similar variances. Page number 9 at 39 A and B. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Carry on.
Page number 10, again, and these are 31 A and B Westbourne. Page number 11, 29, and A and B Westbourne. And if you look at the decisions, the variances requested are very similar to what's been approved at the committee. Starting from page 14 all the way through to 44, we have similar variances and similar lot frontage, similar lot areas, similar variances, similar lot coverage, and I believe it's my opinion that this does meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. And in addition, community planning had no concerns, and we have support from all the neighborhoods, which in this area is not easy to come by. So I think my client did an amazing job speaking to the neighbors and getting their support. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Leo. I open the floor for questions. Who would want to start first? Okay, Member M, please go ahead.
Don, I hope this satisfies your concern. I think you were worried about precedence, and And, I think you were looking at it numerically, from the as of right versus what was being permitted. But now I think with the presentation, I hope that, your concerns have been addressed.
I feel very differently, yes, and I must say the location map conveys a much different picture than the evidence submitted by the applicant. I found that evidence to be quite compelling and favorable to the case. I don't know if any of you disagree, but if you can take a look at that location map, a lot split in that area does not look like it's in keeping with the area. But the reality is there's a lot, and the applicant pointed out, there are many examples up and down this street of exactly what he's proposing. So yes, I've changed my mind. I'll be supporting this if somebody chooses to make a motion.
Okay, all right. I'm glad that it was clarified for you, Don. Definitely that evidence was compelling, and I'm glad it helped you in your decision making.
I
Members,
think there was some confusion here because on the AIC, and I do my review through the AIC, there was no location map. So I don't know if maybe in our agenda package, the wrong location map maybe have been attached to it.
Oh.
That could have caused this confusion because I had to go and look in my own resources like I did in the previous at the Geo Warehouse to just confirm the materials that were submitted by the applicant because I didn't see a location map. So that could be the root of the problem, Dawn.
it's the right one.
I think so.
It's the right one.
It all ended up well. It all ended up well.
It all okay.
Well, yeah, I'm prepared to put forward a motion of approval.
Go ahead.
For item number, are we not in committee? Are we okay to do that, Madam Chair?
Yes, we can do that because I don't think there is any further comment that I've heard, or there's no other speaker, so you can go ahead.
Okay, I'm prepared to put forward a motion of approval for item number 51 for both the consent application as well as the associated minor variances. I feel that they are appropriate in nature and represent the evolution of this community surrounding this site, and are therefore appropriate and minor in nature and meet the intent of both the official plan and the zoning bylaw. I'd like to note that this is subject to the standard conditions of consent, as well as the urban forestry conditions, number 3, and the submission of an R plan to engineering services. Thank you.
Okay. I have a seconder. Member Taylor.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd be delighted to second that motion with a friendly amendment to mention that or require urban forestry condition number 3 times 2.
Right. Yes, for both lots. Agreed. Thank you, Member Taylor.
Perfect. So Member Taylor seconded the motion. All in favor of this motion? Motion's carried. The application has been approved subject to condition. Okay.
All right.
All right. So
Final one.
now I'm at the last one, and you can take over, Member M, from here.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're now on to item 52 for 6 Mcgavin Road. This is also another consent to sever a lot to create 2 new residential lots with associated minor variances. I believe there are engineering services conditions that this is the one that requires a road widening, as well as an R plan to be submitted and eliminate any encroachments into the city right of way. I believe there's something to do with 0.84 meters. Or wait, no, that's something else. I apologize. Do we have the applicant online, Nadeem Ifran?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Great, thanks, Nadeem. And just for the record, we did receive a letter of opposition, and I think that we have the applicant or the the neighboring resident on the line. Can staff confirm if we have the speaker?
Through the chair, the speaker has registered and is here today.
Okay, great. So Nadeem, would you like to make a presentation, or would you like to jump straight forward to questions and the speaker?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a very, very short presentation. I would like to, Brian, to bring up the area map or the map on the screen.
Brian, if you could aid, please, that would be most appreciated. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if we look at this is the largest or the widest lot left on this side of the street on this block. The width of the lot is 22.54 meter, whereas the requirement for the lot frontage is 12 meter. Originally, when we made a submission, it was 11.27 lot frontage, but the lot area complied. Both lot area, part 1 and part 2 complied. As a result, the engineering services has requested the lot road widening along the frontages, 0.4, and also 0.22 on the laneway side. There's a laneway on the south side. In order for us to comply with that, the lot frontages were reduced to 11.16, and one of the lot, which is, I believe, part 1, was reduced to 460 square meter, whereas required is 464. The variances before the committee members to approve is the lot frontages, lot area on part 2, and a very small lot coverage, and from 0.5 to 0.63 for the FSI. If we were to look at the site plan, Brian, if you don't mind bringing the site plan, I wanted to bring into your attention the building length, which is actually from the front wall to the back wall is 18.78 meter. But because of the lot configuration, the way it is calculated, it brought this to 19.13, because the way the definition says middle of the front lot line to the middle of the rear lot line, and then the line along with that is on an angle, and that's how we ended up at 19.53. There are two variances. One is for the height, which is very small, from 7.2 to 7.53, and there's an incidental second story deck, which is 6.4, and that is above the porch. So I just wanted to mention that I reached out to the community planner, Marianne Barsum, about a couple of weeks ago. It happened to be discussion on another application, and I brought this up that if she's writing any report to the committee, and she said she has no concerns about this, and we are here for the committee for approval.
Okay, thank you, Nadeem. Does any members of committee have any questions for the agent? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to the resident. Hi there, can you please,
hear me?
for the record, yes, for the record, can you please say your name and your address, please?
Yeah. Yeah, my name is Janet May. I live at 147 Harewood Avenue. Sorry, this is really weird. I'm getting an echo. Hang on. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
No.
Are you able to hear us, Janet?
I'm really sorry. I can hear you. No, I'm getting an echo in my
Brian,
phone.
did you want to bring onto the screen the call-in? Are you calling in, Janet, or are you on the computer?
No, I called it because we had issues the first time around, so I phoned in, and now.
Do you have your other device that's streaming the video on? Because if you do, that could be causing the echo.
Oh, no, I turned it all off. It's the phone.
I can hear you fine. I guess you can't hear us, okay?
No, I can hear you. Just said. go through the presentation and I won't listen to myself. How about that? Okay, so I'm also speaking on behalf of the Cliff Cross Scarborough Village Southwest Residents Association, which is an incorporated nonprofit. And we are opposed to the minor variance application because the four tests set out in section 451 of the Planning Act.
Janet, I think we've lost you now. It was right when you started to reference the Planning Act that we've lost you. Um, Deputy Secretary Treasurer, any suggestions? She has called in and she is on her phone. Do we have any other avenues in which she can connect with us?
Not really. It's either computer or phone. So we will put the phone number up on the screen with the event number, and she can call in. I'm assuming that's her number, right? Through the chair. Amy, are you able to hear Janet? Okay, you're muted right now. Okay.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. So thank you, Member M, for attending that item. That brings us to the end of the hearing. I guess in terms of other items that were on the agenda, there were 3 LPAD decisions for information purposes for committee members.
TLAB
Sorry,
decisions.
TLAB. TLAB decisions for the benefit of committee's review and of those decisions. And I guess any other business? There is no other business. In terms of the next meeting, when is our next meeting?
Our next meeting is September 22nd.
22nd?
Yes.
Okay, September 22nd is our next meeting. Until then, thank you very much. I would like to adjourn the meeting. Motion to adjourn? Okay, all right. Seconder, member Said seconds, member McCauley seconds, everyone seconds. Thank you very much for the hearing today. Yes, meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.